Hey, how are you? Happy New Year. Good to see you guys. How are you?
Hi, I'm Leslie.
Yeah.
Hi. I can help you guys right here.
And I'm right here.
I would pay $100 to eat one thing off of that table.
And listen to something.
Thank you.
And then around like 7:50, there's going to be a time window. And then they're going to look at
Okay, right, thank you.
celebrating the 20th anniversary. We're so proud of you.
Nobody's taking it. Yeah, I was like, lived out here since summer.
Do you want one? Scary. It's so funny because
Yeah, that's not a sign. Yeah, NBC sign.
I mean the original. They were probably
I feel like sometimes like that.
oh, I love it.
And what about you? Well, I'm going to stay with the CFO. Going to. Yes. Do you want to say what?
He said, I know, it's time for he said,
Sing it, Sam.
You must remember this, a kiss is just a kiss. The sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply. As time goes by. Singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above. The sun's in my heart and I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Come on with the rain, I will smile on my face. I walk down the lane with a happy refrain, just singing, singing in the rain.
This is Mrs. Norman Maine.
Hey everybody, good evening. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and celebrating 25 years of Rialto Cinemas. My name is Izzy Vega and I am the general manager. Thank you. A little bit about me. I started working for Rialto Cinemas back in August of 2008, back when Rialto was in Santa Rosa. And I was with Rialto back on 2010 when we were on the road. I was with them during the remodel of this place, and I hung in there during the pandemic. Yeah. Thanks. You know, I've met some of my best friends working here, and I've seen some of the greatest films playing at Rialto Cinemas, and I just want to say that it's been one of the honors of my life to be an employee here, and it means a lot that everyone came out to come celebrate with us. Thank you. Let's see. After tonight's presentation, we invite you to come out to the lobby for a champagne toast and some dessert. And now celebrating 25 years, bringing the best films to the world to Sonoma County, the director and owner of Rialto Cinemas, Kai Boyd, with conversation with Chris Smith.
Oh, sorry.
I'll go around.
Okay. I'm battling my beverages here.
Wow, look at all these people. Thank you all for coming. Before we get started, I should mention that my appearance here tonight is made possible thanks to albuterol, Cepacol, and Sebastopol's own traditional medicinal teas. Hey, I thought you did a very nice job on those film clips. Were you aware your heart is responding to seeing some of those films that we had such powerful reactions to? Amazing. Yeah, that is an Academy Award-winning short called Precious Images by a director named Chuck Workman, who for years and years and years has cut most of the clip packages you see on the Academy Awards broadcast every year. And that was made in, I think, '89, and it won an Academy Award. And I wish they'd update it because it's brilliant, but there's, 30 years of movies that aren't in there. But it's one of my favorite shorts, and so it felt appropriate tonight that we run it.
It was great fun. So happy anniversary, Kai.
Thank you.
25 years. 25 years of screening art films and much more in Sonoma County.
It's unbelievable.
It boggles me to think of the corn that you have popped. Is there going to be a contest for the person who can get closest to the number of kernels over 25?
I mean, I don't even know if we could estimate it in pounds of popcorn seed. I mean, it's, you know, how much popcorn seed do we order a year, Izzy? It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's just unending. If we don't get popcorn deliveries every week, we're...
So in addition to the popcorn, on this very day, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe on this very day in 2000...
Correct.
You fired up the projectors, the actual projectors at the Rialto Cinemas Lakeside, which is located in that, what's that town, the next town over? Santa Rosa, Santa Rosa.
Go east, young man, go east.
Since then, you and your extraordinary staff have provided us for a quarter of a century a place to gather, to be moved, awestruck, inspired, delighted, challenged, and pressed into action. I think it's, if you think about it, it's truly epic and awesome what your theaters have done for it's a lot more than just a place to go watch a movie.
Thank you. That was always the intention, was that it was more than just movies. We wanted to, you know, be a part of the community. And when I was getting started, there's this concept called the third place, where the first place is your home, the second place is your place of work, when people didn't work remotely and we actually all used to go to work. Some of us still do. And the third place is places in the community where the community gathers, where you meet friends, you share common experiences. And for me, the movie theater is one of those places. And one of my favorite things to do sometimes is just stand in the lobby and watch, you know, as people are coming out of movies, people are coming to see other movies, and who runs into who, and the connections that are made, and the conversations that happen. It's why every movie theater I've taken over or opened, I've always taken out the video games and put in room for tables and chairs and stuff, because conversation is important. And in many ways, I view the programming also as a conversation between us and the audience. So,
yeah, well done. So you, even 25 years ago, you were not exactly a kid. I'm older than you are, so I can say that. Right?
I was 35.
All right, you were a kid. Tell us a little bit about your life before the Rialto and your path to creating this cultural treasure. What were you doing before? What did your parents tell you to do for a career?
My parents were incredibly supportive and, you know, told me to do what I wanted and what made me happy. Immediately prior to opening Rialto Cinemas Lakeside, I'd been working in healthcare. I worked for Indiana University Medical Center in patient food service, and then when Michael and I moved to San Francisco in 1993, I got a job at UCSF at the kidney transplant service, because they said, you worked in a hospital, you must know medical terminology. Stated as a statement, not a question. So I didn't have to dissuade them that I did not know medical terminology. And I worked for the kidney transplant service, and I supported 4 nephrologists, and they quickly figured out that I couldn't spell words like focal glomerulosclerosis, but I can now. But, you know, I was earning a living, but I wasn't nurturing my soul. I wasn't fulfilling my passion. And at a certain point, I said to Michael, this isn't going to get any better. I want to pursue this crazy dream I have of, let's open a movie theater. And he was supportive from the very beginning. And, 25 years later, here we are. I mean, it was... You know, I was just creating a movie theater. I wasn't really thinking about creating an institution in the way that Rialto Cinemas has become an institution, but that was a nice byproduct of it. It's incredibly rewarding to be able to work every day and come to work and do something that I absolutely love. And, it gives me great joy and great passion, and it drives me nuts sometimes.
Good thing.
Drives Michael nuts sometimes.
Well, no doubt this has been an evolution from what began. Before we go any farther, I thought I would mention we have this beautiful thing for the suitable for framing. This is very nice. It's the California Legislature.
Oh, how cool.
Thanking Kai and his staff. This is presented by new Assembly member Chris Rogers and State Senator Mike McGuire for 25 years.
Thank you. That's so nice. I wasn't expecting that.
And again, it's not obviously not just 25 years of movies, but 25 years of community enhancement. So, can you tell us a little bit about the movies that young Kai Boyd loved most?
Well, young Kai grew up on a steady diet of mainstream Hollywood film because that's what we got in Great Falls, Montana. So, it started, very typically with the Disney animated classics, and because I was a kid in the 70s, the Disney live action comedies of the 70s, and, they were great fun in the 70s, and now I look at them and I'm kind of like, oh my God, they're so bad. But there were some moments that stuck out. But I was thinking about it, and I think it was actually in Great Falls the first time I ever saw an independent film. And it was this film that's starring Rip Torn, and it was set in Wyoming, but it was filmed in Montana, so it was a big deal. And it was called Heartland, and it's about these people, eking out a living in the hardscrabble landscape of eastern Montana or eastern Wyoming, farming. And that was really the first truly independent film I ever saw. And it wasn't usual for Great Falls to get those kind of movies, but the Filmed in Montana thing kind of made it happen. There was also a Japanese nature documentary called The Glacier Fox, which I remember. That, I think, was probably one of the very first documentaries I ever saw. But then when I went to college at the University of Montana in Missoula, I went and I saw all kinds of movies. I saw foreign movies, I saw documentaries, I saw B movies, I saw, all kinds of things. Totally out of character for me, one day I took myself to go see Arnold Schwarzenegger in this thing called Terminator. And I surprisingly liked it, I discovered I have pretty eclectic taste, except for horror.
And you feed those eclectic tastes here. You've got kind of the first run movies and the art house films.
Yeah, well, and I mean, my first job in film was working for the Student Program Council at the University of Montana as a film programmer. And one of my very first mentors, our faculty advisor, a guy by the name of Victor Gottsman, advised all of us as programmers, we were divided into 5 different areas, never to let our personal taste interfere with our programming. And I learned that lesson very early on, and I've always stuck true to it. It's funny, when we started doing the Metropolitan Opera live in HD back in 2007, somebody came up to me and said, "You must really love opera to be doing this." And I was like, "No, not really. Sorry, it's not my art form." But I recognize that it is other people's art form and that people will want to see it and to have the opportunity to come see it. And for me, that's about, it's about having a diverse array of films and voices and events on screen. I mean, I always pride myself that on any given week, you can look at what we're playing at Rialto Cinemas, and you can look at any other movie theater in Sonoma County, and we have the most diverse lineup of film in any given week. And part of it is we don't lean into blockbuster. When you get the big blockbuster movies, the tendency of most exhibitors is, hey, this is opening this week. Let's put it on 5 screens. I've never done that. I mean, we'll do 2 sometimes. But, mostly I like having 9 screens and diversity, and usually we don't even just have 9 movies in here. Usually there's 11 or 12 of them, because I like to stack things. A, to keep some things going, and B, because there are the little movies like. How many of you have seen Flow? Flow is if you haven't seen Flow, you have to come see Flow. Flow is my favorite movie of last year, and it's this little gem of an animated movie, and it wouldn't be here if I hadn't fought for it and said, this is important, we have to do this. And so, that's where my passion comes into it.
You did mention, of course, the Metropolitan Opera House. I would be interested to know a little bit about how that came about and how it played, how it went over.
Well, but long before the Met created the Metropolitan Opera Live in HD, which they originally called Met Goes to the Movies, I had met a wonderful woman, Neva Tur, who's here tonight, who is the president of the Sonoma County chapter of the San Francisco Opera Guild. And she came in to meet with me to talk about potentially doing a series of films, because there have been a number of operas over the years that had been filmed. And so we talked about that. It never really came to fruition, but I kept Neva's name and number in my Rolodex. And when the Met Opera thing came around, I was like, yes. And so we talked to Neva about it, and she was very excited. And I got to thinking about it. Because, the Met's goal with the Metropolitan Opera Live in HD is to age the audience down of opera and to expose new generations to opera. But when you look at it, the audience is not exactly young. None of us are anymore. Anyway, and so I had this, there were 2 things. Michael and I both came from the performing arts. Michael was the general manager of the Brooklyn Academy of Music for 5 years. He had an extensive career in the arts. I had a brief career in the arts, but we both understood how a subscription season works and how you could sell a package of things on subscription. And I said, so why don't we sell the Met instead of one opera at a time? Let's sell it as a series. And even wilder idea, let's sell it on a reserve seat basis. And we were the first movie theater in North America to sell it as a series on a reserve seat basis. And while I can take credit for the idea, the fact that it worked and figuring out the mechanics of how it worked and everything, that was all Michael. He figured all that out and found ticks and everything, and it just worked. And I find it interesting that, a few years later, suddenly Cinemark is selling the series. Word got out. That's one of my little accomplishments.
Bravo. So, Summerfield Road, that's in the past, but it was a big deal. And that's where, hey, how many of us learned of Michael and started at Summerfield Road? So yeah, that was kind of the beginning.
That was the beginning.
And I do have a memory that I will share, and that was in 2010 when Michael and Kai had to leave Summerfield Road. I happened to come by on the day that you were taking the marquee down, and
that was a sad day.
It was a very sad day. It was a very sad day taking that marquee down. But, well, tell us a little bit about what that theater was to you, and then how it was for you having to transition away from it.
Well, first I'm going to tell you one positive, hopeful thing.
Yay.
Parts of that marquee live on. The Rialto Cinemas names that are on the northeast corner of the building here are off the marquee at over on Summerfield Road.
Good to know.
As is the big R on the southwest corner of the building. We preserved those elements and reused them. So
beautiful.
We couldn't find a way to get the big fan and everything onto this building, but we used what we could. The Lakeside was so core to what the company is and what we are and who our identity is. And, you know, finding out in early March of 2010 that our lease was not going to be renewed after we'd been told it would be renewed, and that we were losing the theater to our only competitor. I mean, it sucked. But there was no time. There was no time to grieve. There was no time to wallow. It was just, all right, we need to make a plan. We need to figure this out. We came up with this, and mostly me, came up with this crazy idea of, let's take Rialto Cinemas on the road. Okay, how do we do that? We partnered with the JCC to take the Metropolitan Opera to the Jackson Theater at the Sonoma Country Day School. We worked with Cheryl Itamura at the 6th Street Playhouse, and we took National Theater Live and the Jewish Film Festival, and as well as our own little one-weekend film festivals when we could fit them in between 6th Street's productions. And we did that at the at 6th Street Playhouse. We had some fun doing it. It was a lot of work. It was like being a traveling theater company. And Chris, who's up in the booth, and Izzy and Marianne and I and Sean, who is no longer with the company, you know, we would all, but he went to work for Sonoma Country Day School. Anyway, we all would show up and put on our little show, and then we would leave. It was, you know, but we were keeping the brand alive and in front of the public. And out of that whole experience, I learned that I was stronger than I thought I was. And that would come to serve me well in the future.
No doubt. Well, congratulations for keeping a theater alive without a theater.
Well, the theater, Rialto Cinemas is more than just a building.
Yeah,
We're an experience, we're a vision, we're a tangible entity. And so it was easy, well, easy is not the right word, but it was possible to take the experience on the road in a way that it wouldn't be possible for people that were less, you know, that it's just more like we're going to throw some movies up and pop some popcorn and, you know.
Remind us what was going on here. This was the Sebastopol Cinemas, and it was part of a chain. Is that right?
It was actually Dave Corkle. I think it was his first theater here with Cinema West. Dave has the Boulevard in Petaluma now, and I will always be grateful for Dave, who reached out to me in the fall of 2011 and said, "Hey, why don't we partner on running Sebastopol Cinemas together?" And my initial reaction was, why would I do that? But Michael and our wonderful film buyer, Doug Endicott, who sadly could not be with us this evening, he also is sick in LA, said, you need to take that meeting. And so I did, and Dave and I talked, and you know, it got to a point where he figured, why don't I just sell you the business of operating Sebastopol? And I was like, that I can get behind. And so in May of 2012, we took over the operations of what was Sebastopol Cinemas and turned it into Rialto Cinemas Sebastopol. And, you know, it was definitely a process. I don't know how many of you remember what it looked like when we took over. I mean, that those of us who made it through the transition, Marianne, Melissa, Izzy, Chris, Trevor, you know, we made it through the renovation and lived to tell the tale was quite something. But we completed the renovation in 2000. It took 2014 and 15. It was supposed to take like 3 or 4 months. It took a lot longer. But it was, I'm so proud of what we did. And, you know, the vision of the Lakeside and the vision of this theater and the vision of the Elmwood, none of them would be what they are without the input of Michael's and my dear friend Luke Sheridan, who is a retired architect now. He used to be with Gensler, and I remember in 1999 going to meet Luke and his then partner John at the Gensler Library to pick out carpet and all that. And then we did it again with Luke and some of his colleagues for Gensler Amy and Allison Carr, and so they're hugely responsible for the color scheme and the vision and everything, and I wanted warm, I wanted welcoming, I wanted not typical movie theater, and boy did they deliver.
Well, this is not a typical. Is this a typical movie theater? No, no. And I just so appreciate that in the an era of chain store duplicate everything, that this place is unique, and this is an experience unlike at any other.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Well, it's not only me well done. It's well done to an incredible team of people who I will mention a little later, but I certainly don't do this alone.
No. Okay, so you survived and thrived through the loss of a home theater, and then something came along that was very unkind to your industry, the COVID-19.
Oh, I think COVID-19 was unkind to us all.
Well, it was uniformly unkind. It was, but we all know that a lot of theaters closed, a lot of film festivals were canceled. So give us a few of the highs and lows of that episode.
Well, if you think back to March 17th of 2020, we were all told, this is going to be 2 weeks or maybe a month we're going to be closed, and then everything's going to be back. And boy, was that wrong. And so we closed, and then it was like, again, that instinct of we need to keep the brand going. We need to keep the name of the theater in front of the public. And so I did something in hindsight, it may not have been terribly smart, but at the time it felt right. We created this thing called Rialto Recommends. And so every night I would get on Facebook for all 3 of my theaters, and I would recommend a movie. And I would tell people where they could stream it. So essentially we were teaching people to stream, and that probably wasn't smart in retrospect. But it was fun because, I think I did it for 400 nights, and I recommended all kinds of films. We started out with Mansfield Park, which was one of the very first films we opened with 25 years ago tonight, which was a big get for us for Santa Rosa. And I did all kinds of things. One night I recommended this weird movie. I think it's the weirdest movie I've ever shown in 25 years. It's a low-budget, low-tech sci-fi movie called Primer about time travel, set in West Texas, and it's really trippy. And it doesn't involve going to outer space at all. Very low budget, very indie. And then, just recommended all kinds of things. When George Floyd and Black Lives Matter started happening, I started recommending a lot of films on the African American experience. I did obscure documentaries. I did mainstream stuff. It was just all over the map. I was trying to be pardon me, as broad as possible. But we taught people how to stream. And, but the other thing is, and that it was something that I discovered, and I was not aware at the time of 2 incredible streaming services. One is called Canopy and one is called Hoopla. And they are both completely free. If you have a Sonoma County Library card, you can sign up for Canopy and Hoopla. Ditch your Netflix. There's a lot of great stuff on Canopy and Hoopla.
Good tip. And then there also was a GoFundMe campaign that people reached into their pockets.
Yes, well, there were various things. So we started out, we applied for a PPP loan like every other business in America, and that was helpful. And there was a concerted lobbying effort for what was originally called Save Our Screens, which then got merged with the Shuttered Venue Operator Grants. And it was a government granting program through the SBA, which, by the way, had never run a government granting program before in its history. And so Save Our Shuttered Venue Operator Grants were for performing arts centers, theater companies, ballet companies, orchestras, dance companies, concert venues, movie theaters, and within certain parameters, museums got thrown in at the last minute. And it was a fairly limited pool of money, but it was all largely thanks to Senator Chuck Schumer, who championed it through Congress and got it signed into law. And then, that money came, but it didn't come until July of 2021 was when we got the first payment. But we were still paying full rent. We got no rent relief. We still had to pay for the insurance on the building. We still had to pay for utilities, because it turns out digital projection, you can't just turn it off and ignore it for 9 or 10 or 11 months. The projectors have to be fired up and run at least once a week for several hours, because just like your computer at home, everything's got a battery in it, and the battery needs to be recharged. So, there were these things, and so we're paying full rent, and we applied for some other government assistance called an economic injury disaster loan, which was, a set amount of money. It's a 30-year loan at 1%, which is a good deal. But it was very clear to me that, we needed an infusion of cash, and we needed it now, and I had no way to get it. The only way I could get it was to do something that I'd never done before and never thought I would do. And it was a really hard decision to make, was to go out and launch a GoFundMe campaign and go hat in hand and say, we need your help. We have nothing to offer you. We don't know when we're going to be open. We don't have any perks to give you, but we need your help to try and survive. And we started out with a fairly modest goal. I think it was like 50 or 60,000. We ended up raising $168,000 in Sonoma County.
Pretty nice. Thank you, Sonoma County.
Yeah, and then we raised another $128,000 for our 2 theaters in the East Bay. So it was a very successful GoFundMe campaign. And every night I would, get out my laptop after I did Rialto Recommends. I'd get out my laptop and I would send out thank you notes via GoFundMe. And, and people were amazing. People gave $5, people gave $50, people gave $100, people gave $1,000. It was amazing. And so anybody that, if you gave $100 or more, I wrote you a somewhat personalized thank you note. There was a bit of pro forma template about it, but I would customize a couple of sentences. And I would send those out every single night. And, and part of the way, I don't know how familiar you are with GoFundMe, but, the deal is you want people to, donate, but then you want them to share and spread the word. And it's like a social media thing. And so, that was very, very successful. And then we looked and looked and looked about having a drive-in. And we found the perfect spot. But we could not get the property owner to agree. It would have been right over where the hotel is going to be built. Would have been perfect if they'd have graded that for us. We could have had a great drive-in in downtown Sebastopol. But there were most of the other, because when you do a drive-in, you have to, you can't just put up a screen and show movies. You got to have restrooms. You got to have running water. You got to have, we needed a way to sell concessions. So it was like, well, if we did it over there, we have restrooms in the building, we have a concession stand, we're doing popcorn pickup out the front door, we can sell concessions out the front door. I mean, it would have been great, but we couldn't make it happen. But we did do popcorn pickup, and so once a week, Trevor and Izzy and Chris and I and a couple other people would all gather, and we would sell popcorn out the front door of the theater, and candy and food and stuff. And it was
amazing.
And we sold movie posters. We did all kinds of things. But it was just about, keeping engaged with people, because we were closed until April 30th, 2021. So it was 14 or 15 months.
Well, it's astounding to me to imagine that you're not sure when that thing is going to get over, if it's going to get over.
Yeah, it was very interesting because, and then as Trevor and Izzy and Chris will attest, there's all the fun and joy of reopening a building that's been closed for 14 months. Yeah. We'd been in here like once a week for 14 months, and so we had our own mess to clean up. But we also, we used the time. we had the risers in 3 of the upstairs auditoriums totally rebuilt. I don't know if you remember how in the upstairs auditoriums, some of the risers used to go like this. Now they're all straight and parallel to the screen. I know it's a novel concept for a movie theater. But we used some of our PPP money and our time to accomplish some things. So it wasn't like we just, sat on our heels and did nothing. I mean, we had projects that we did. And then it was about how do we get people to come back to the movies?
Right.
And, and part of the challenge is we don't make the movies. We can only show the movies that the independent film community in Hollywood have made, and people have to want to come back to the movies. And so, there was the production stoppage because of COVID, and, things just got going, and then the actors and writers went on strike, and everything shut down again. So really, it was just this past fall, October, November of this year, that we finally saw a release schedule that was something like we were used to looking at pre-COVID. And so it's been a long, slow recovery. And, it's funny because when reporters ask me questions, they're always like, how is your recovery from the pandemic gone? But everybody forgets about the writers and actors strike. And that was equally detrimental because production just stopped. And, and when it restarted, it wasn't just movies. It was movies and television and all these things. Everybody needed sound stages. Everybody needed post-production people. Everybody needed everything. And so it doesn't just ramp back up. It took time. And so we're finally, back to a release schedule that is more like we're used to seeing. And, knock on wood, that continues.
Who knew there was so much drama to the theater business?
I keep saying the drama belongs on the screen.
Dig it. No, I think we're very, very grateful that you stuck it out, again, with great creativity and tenacity to keep this enterprise alive.
Well, there's a song from a movie that came out while we were on the road. It's kind of a cheesy, campy movie. It's called Burlesque. But there's a great Cher song in it called Haven't Seen the Last of Me Yet. And during the on the road years, that period, and then during COVID, that song was my anthem. We were getting through this. And, I thought about playing it tonight, but I couldn't figure out how to fit it into the program.
Well, so why don't you just sing it now?
How about I talk it? I've been brought to my knees. I've been pushed past the point of breaking, but I can take it. I'll be back on my feet. This is far from over. You haven't seen the last of me yet. There will be no fade out. This is not the end. I am down now, but I will be strong. I'll be standing strong again. Times are hard, but I was built tough. And that's all I can remember. So, go Cher. And that was written by Diane Warren.
I thought to ask Kai about why people come to the theater. I mean, I think there's a presumption that a lot of people don't go, but obviously a lot of people do go. And I think that all of us sitting here we're living why people come to the theater. You see people you're feeling the group dynamic. You've got the big screen. You've got this beautiful concession stand, and it's a communal, collective, dynamic experience that you just don't have sitting at home on the couch.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things that I think the major studios, they're all publicly traded and they listen to Wall Street, and Wall Street was all in on everybody should be Netflix. Everybody should have streaming. And the thing of it is that what they've discovered is that a movie that is made directly for streaming and does not get a theatrical release is the modern day equivalent of the direct-to-video movies of the 90s and early 2000s. they don't have the cultural resonance. They don't have the impact. They don't have the water cooler conversations. And when you look at, there's a fascinating article, I forget where I saw it, it just came out recently, it was called Casual Viewing. And it was mostly aimed at Netflix, but it also talked about Amazon Prime as well, and how there's what they called the TNM, the typical Netflix movie. And the typical Netflix movie is something that was made for Netflix. It's made to a pretty stringent set of technical standards that Netflix insists upon. But it's designed that you can turn it on and you can watch it in the background. You can do your laundry. You can do whatever. It's casual watching. They repeat plot points. It's not serious cinema. And Netflix does make some serious cinema, but it's the exception, not the rule. And I think the best example for me was Alfonso Cuarón's beautiful film Roma. How many of you saw Roma? How many of you saw it in a movie theater? Okay, because when Roma was in release and I was talking to people about Roma, the people who loved it invariably were people who saw it in a movie theater. The people who thought it was boring or couldn't get through it were the people who tried to watch it on Netflix, and they couldn't give themselves to the suspension of everything around them to just settle into the rhythms and the story that Cuarón was trying to tell. And I think Roma is a beautiful, beautiful movie. It's powerful, but it needs to be seen on the big screen. I mean, I'm thrilled Netflix paid him to make it, but it was a theatrical movie. There's another one that's on Netflix right now that we hope is going to get a whole bunch of Academy Award nominations on the 23rd, is it now? Yeah, they've moved the Academy Award nominations like 3 times now. Because of the fires in LA, obviously. But the film is called Emilia Perez. And Emilia Perez, I highly encourage you to check it out. It's my winner for the hybrid film of 2024. It is a French film, so it was produced with French money, by a French director, set in Mexico, filmed in Spanish, and it's a musical. And it's about a Mexican drug lord who wants to transition. So it's also a transgender story. And like I said, it's a musical. It's a great film, and don't let the musical part put you off. But again, it's one of those films that plays much better in the theater than it ever will on Netflix. But Netflix made it.
So, 25 years into this, tell us a little bit about what you foresee of the future for yourself and for this theater. And then we are going to have some questions from y'all.
Well, as I said at the beginning, I was 35 when I started this. I'm now 60. My husband, Michael, is older than I am. And I saw it in my parents. But there is a window. There's a window in which to go, see, and do. And I want to have that time. And so I'm not giving up. I'm still going to own the company. I'm still going to play a role. But I have been mentoring people within my staff so that I can get out of the day-to-day operations. I'm still going to want to have some sort of voice in programming. But I want to turn the reins over. I mean, it was funny because for years and years and years, my accountant and lawyers and everyone would say, you need an exit strategy. You need an exit strategy. You need an exit strategy. I'm like, I can't sell my baby. And it took me a long time to figure it out. But I finally figured out the exit strategy is you don't exit. You keep it going, but you bring in, you grow up the people that you have. I mean, I have a great, great team of people. And so that's the plan. I mean, the plan is definitely for more movies. definitely more live in HD events, more dinners with Michelle Anna Jordan, which if you haven't come to any of our dinners, they're a lot of fun. They're terrific. Michelle does great things with food, and we collaborate on the movies. And it's another one of those. It's another one of those things that, you know, it wasn't something that I planned, but coming out of COVID, Michelle chose her moment so wisely and so well. She said, hey, you know, Godfather's being reissued and remastered, and what if we did a dinner and a movie? And so we did, and it worked. And it was based on a dinner she had once made for Francis Ford Coppola. And it was a big hit, and we did it as a test run. So we did it at a low price point, just because we were unsure if we could pull it off. And we did. And so then last year we did a whole series of them. And we have a whole new series starting in February with one of my favorite movies, Victor Victoria. And so it will be a French dinner because, you know, Victor Victoria takes place in Paris. And we're showing Tempopo. And we're showing, what else are we showing, Trevor? Babette's Feast. Lunchbox. What's cooking? Oh yeah, and a Werner Herzog program. Two Les Blank Werner Herzog films. So anyway, it'll be fun. Come check them out. They're really unique experiences. And I'm sure we'll come up with some other things to do as well. Oh, and yeah. No, I can't talk about that yet because it's not set.
Go ahead. No, all right.
You know how we have Movie Lover, our loyalty program? We're going to start, I'm hoping it's the end of January, but it may be the end of February, a once-a-month Movie Lover Club film series where anybody can come, but if you have a Movie Lover card, you can get in for the $8 that we would charge you on a Monday. And it's going to be films that we missed along the way that we didn't get to show.
Nice.
So, but it'll be, you know, one day only, matinee and evening shot to see them. And so look for an announcement coming soon.
Okay, for a few questions. Who chooses the music for the lobby playlist? I love it. Can't resist moving my feet.
Well, that's me and Pandora for Business. I pick the stations, and then, you know, it changes stations like every 45 minutes or hour, so it's not too much of any one thing. And then, you know, Pandora picks the songs, but I have the ability to go in and go, no, we don't want that. And believe me, there's some that we've said no to.
Very effective.
And we do mix it up because, you know, if you know about Pandora at all, it's very, it's an algorithm and it gets very into its groove. So you can pretty much count on if you were here at 2:10 on a Friday afternoon and a certain song was playing, if you're here at 2:10 on Monday, that same song is going to be playing. So we do mix it up periodically for the staff because otherwise it would just drive them crazy.
Rumor has it that this building was once a jail prior to becoming this amazing theater. Can you please elaborate on this building's history?
I know it looks like it was a jail. It was not a jail. This building, and when we're talking about this building, when you come out of the lobby through the archway, the lobby is an addition that was put on in 1994 or 5. The base building is from the archway and where all the auditoriums and everything are. It was originally the Spee's apple brandy facility. They used to distill apple brandy here, and you can, the Sebastopol Historical Society has photographs. They're kind of blurry, but you know, of big copper kettles and stuff. And it makes sense because the Barlow was an apple processing plant. So you process the apples, you bring them over here, you make brandy.
Sounds good to me. You might have answered this with your kidneys and hospital food, but if there was no such thing as movies, what would your alternative career have been?
I probably would have been an administrator for a professional theater company. I love live theater. It's a huge passion of mine. Michael and I go usually twice a year and go see a whole bunch of shows. We just got back from New York City. We saw 9 shows in 8 days. And I mean, that's how we met. We met working at Indiana Repertory Theater in 1990. So it would be live theater. Because I have a master's degree in arts administration from the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music.
Fabulous. How did you come by all the empty reels?
Those were all reels that we used at the lakeside. Some of them were from here, and some of them were from the Elmwood. And when the conversion to digital happened in 2012, I was like, I can't throw these out. I can't send them to recycling. They're too special. They're too important. They're part of our history. And so we had been tooling around in Toronto one year when we were at the Toronto International Film Festival, and there was a condominium tower that was being built, and in their presentation center, they had this wall, a video wall, and it had 4 TVs on it, but the TVs were mounted to a frame that was filled with movie reels, and I thought, that's a good idea. And so we worked with Michael Birch at Scott AG in Santa Rosa, and they, we took them all the reels, they built the frame, and then one Saturday, Michael and I and a guy by the name of Chris Norberg, laid out all the reels. We were doing it flat, and then we'd get up on a big ladder and look at it and move things around, and that's how the reel sculpture came into being. And then the 3 hanging sculptures in the lobby were originally intended to be chandeliers. But it turns out, in a commercial space, you cannot have an internally lit electrical device that has not been approved with a UL listing and been certified by Underwriters Lab. So we went, well, that's going to take a year and too much time and too much money. So we made them as hanging sculptures and lit them from track lighting. Bing.
Perfect.
So
well, that sounded like it was really fun.
It was, and the rollers that separate the reels in the hanging sculptures are rollers from the platter systems that used to transport the film to the projector. And you may have noticed in and among the wine bottles on the wine display, there are a bunch of old lenses. Those are old 35 millimeter projection lenses.
It's great
Recycle,
stuff.
reuse, repurpose.
Great stuff. What is one film you had to advocate or kind of fight for to be shown that ended up being a big success?
I'll give you 2.
2 is better.
The first, and they were actually both the same year. The first one is Agnes Varda's brilliant film called Faces, Places. And the other one is a documentary about Jane Goodall, and it's called Jane. And I saw both of them in Toronto, and Michael and I loved both of them. We loved Faces, Places more than we loved Jane. We're not huge Philip Glass fans, sorry. And Jane has a score by Philip Glass. Anyway, when I was talking to Mark and Doug about them, and Mark kind of derisively says, well, those will be 1-weekers. Well, they were not 1-weekers in Sebastopol or at the Elmwood. Sebastopol was the 8th highest grossing theater for the entire run of Jane, and the 8th highest grossing theater for the entire run of Faces, Places in the whole country. Wow. And the Elmwood in Berkeley was number 3 on both films.
Remarkable.
Vindication.
Absolutely.
And Flow is another one. I mean, Doug was like, well, we can fit it in, but I don't know how long we'll be able to play it. Well, we opened it on December 6th, and we had to squeeze it in to get it. It originally opened with only 2 shows a day. And, thank you to Variance Films for actually allowing that to happen, because otherwise it wouldn't have gotten in. But, Flow is still here, and, Flow did better than Sonic the Hedgehog.
Wow. Well, I think maybe the time has come for us to say thank you Thank you, Michael. I mean, Kai and Michael.
Thank you.
And happy 25th anniversary.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for having us.
Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
As I said, I don't do this alone. I do this with an amazing team of people, which starts with my husband, Michael, Doug Endicott, our film buyer in LA, who sadly could not be here this evening. There are a couple of women here who played a crucial role in the company for a very long time. They both retired before and after the COVID pandemic. So I want to thank both Marianne Wade, who was our director of operations, and Melissa Hathaway, who is our marketing director for so long, and now has a new title as the First Lady of Petaluma. She's married to the mayor. So we jokingly refer to her as the First Lady of Petaluma. Jen Tobner, who sadly could not be with us tonight because she is very sick, is our director of marketing. She has a great team, which includes Trevor Rocco, who produces all of the video content that you see that is custom. The land acknowledgement, all of this, the custom trailers, the one where the popcorn falls on the people, the movie lover trailers, that is all Trevor. Joel Mulcair, Joe McCormick, that's our marketing team. I have a fantastic director of operations, Roxanne Goodfellow, who makes both Michael's and my lives much easier. I'm not sure we make her life easier. Izzy Vega, who's been with us since 2008, is the general manager of Sebastopol. Paula Jimenez is the general manager of the Cerrito. We have a great team of managers here in Sebastopol, including Cesar Castillo, Lizzie Abbott, Christian DePalme, Joel Mulcair, and Miguel Rosales. Did I leave anybody out? Oh, and yes, Chris Perkins, our Director of Facilities and Operations. Director of Facilities and Exhibition, I mean. Chris is up in the booth, and I don't think any of us would be here if Chris wasn't here. So, and then just an incredible floor staff. Amy Yoro is our financial manager and keeps the bills paid and keeps everything on track. Bo Simon, my wonderful attorney, who helped me negotiate the very first lease, and is a movie lover and has been by my side the entire journey. Linda Kachu, our wonderful accountant, who sadly couldn't be with us today, who played a crucial role in helping us navigate and survive. So, I mean, it takes a village, but it also takes an audience. And we have the most fantastic audience in Sonoma County. And so I want to say thank you to everybody who's ever come and seen a movie, showed up, everything. Ruben and Patty out there. Ruben is our financial advisor and keeps us out of trouble and helps us figure out ways to keep going forward, and figured out how to pay for the renovation that would never end. So I mean, this has been one of the great highlights of my life, and I've met so many amazing people, including a lot of you. I've learned so many things. I have so much kind of random bits of ephemeral knowledge that I've learned because of movies we've shown and things we've learned along the way. I've learned more about plumbing than I ever wanted to know. I know more about roofs than I ever wanted to know. I know more about air conditioning than I ever wanted to know. These are the, people think my job is, sitting around watching movies and picking movies. Well, if only it were that simple. But no, I mean, it's wonderful to be here tonight. I'm glad I was well enough to do it. There was a moment when I thought we were going to have to cancel. But thank you to everybody. I really appreciate it. You have made a boy from Montana's dreams come true. Thank you. We have a credit roll we'd like you to watch, And then if you would join us out in the lobby, we have a champagne toast and dessert. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the lobby. Oh, and we have one other thing we have to do, Izzy. You can't have a celebration without flutterfetti.
Thanks for all the shout outs. They were good.
Congratulations, guys. Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Izzy.
Yeah, we had a few people leave already.
We didn't collect any money, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we're gonna do the mandate.
Okay, does everybody have a glass? Thank you all. To 25 years of magic, movies, and memories, and to 25 years more, to my husband Michael, to my staff, to our incredible audiences, thank you so much. We'll keep seeing you at the movies.